got a few of our brake lines, not all of them. Oops, as I drop it on the floor. Each one a little different sizing. So we have a 36-inch braided hose. This is the clutch line that I'm gonna be using. Hopefully it reaches and my math is right. 21-inch here. And that's for our front driver side, right in the brake caliper. These are small, well, so that's to the one that's going back here. Back here down to the wheel well, and then we'll need a smaller one for the wheel well itself. And then we have a 30 for the passenger side. So also go from over here, over to the wheel well, and then we're good to go. So let's get them lined up and put them inside. And we have our super long bulkhead fitting to compare. I have the other one out here, I do. To compare, this is the difference in distance between the two. So I need a lot longer because I'm going through the clutch pedal or the brake pedal, one of the two mounts that's on there. So I wanted to originally use that piece right there, but it didn't seem like it was going through. So I may try and do that again, but for now, we'll just go ahead and test it out with this and make sure it works. And we have our clutch line here as well. So we're just gonna get that now that that's mounted. We're gonna go ahead and get our brake lines on and then see if we can line it up with the clutch line. All right, latest update. We have a better T-fitting. So this, let's see, I think I still have another one in here somewhere. Oh, here it is. So this was the original T-fitting we were planning on using. Let's focus, there we go. That we were planning on using for everything, but that has since changed. So we're going to switch over from that to this, which is pretty much, this is going to be the bulkhead fitting. That'll go right through the wall, and then you should have in here, we'll angle it probably this direction inside, so that way we can hit the front passenger brake with ease, and then this one will just come up and then sit straight in front. So let's take this small one out right there, swap that out, put that new line in, and then we should be good. And then we're gonna work on getting our AC components fully out all the way. So we'll have to take this panel off, take these out real quick to get the old condenser out. And we will also finally need to put our wiring harness that's underneath the car back in the trunk so we can get everything ready for startup. And we have our hard line, which is gonna go from the front underneath the transmission tunnel all the way back to the rear distribution block in the lower back corner. So let's get to it. All right, so we got pretty much everything we wanted to accomplish tonight done. We got the AC stuff 100% out, so there's no AC stuff in here at all. We got the hard line for the brake, for the brake line done and dusted, so that's out of the way. And then what was the last thing we wanted to do? Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Take the condenser out, take the rest of the AC units out, make the hard line, and then tuck the wiring harness back into the trunk. So got all three things done tonight. That'll be it for now until the next one. So we got the back piece broken off to pretty much take off the piece that used to be on this, the stock booster. And then we put it on the back of a universal piece, essentially just like a kit that came with a whole bunch of other stuff. So that had, I know we're bouncing all over the place. Basically had one of these, and this is wide enough, but the hole's too big. So that means I have to drill out a bigger hole to hold this, which just doesn't seem like it was working. So instead, let me show you what I did. By using the stock stuff, obviously it's gonna work. As far as mounting up to where it needs to be. Just the gold piece that is right here, that is essentially the aftermarket piece or the universal piece itself. So just make sure they're the same thread pitch, and then a locking nut so nothing can back itself off. And yeah, some Loctite to hold it in place. And now press the brake. That ain't going nowhere. You can see it pushing all the way back far enough in. So once everything's tightened down, we should be set, which will be perfect. So now we need to put our front brakes on. So I bought some 1-inch brake line for the fronts. I did not mean to get a 90, but I think we might be able to make it work. We'll have the 90 at the wall underneath, which will be right under here, and then we'll have the straight go into the actual wheel, the brake caliper itself. So let's just test it out and make sure it works. All right, so looking in here, we have our straight going here, and then I liked how it just was able to go right through the original brake line section. So I just rerouted it through that, nothing sharps in there. Worst case, I'll wrap it in some DEI heat protection just to prevent the rubbing. And then we go down and we have our brake. So theoretically, assuming I turn left or turn right, it shouldn't bind or hit anything, but we'll test that once we have the keys to unlock the steering column, and we'll just give it a go. And then we'll do the same on the other side. All right, and now that we have that lined up, it's time to get our proportion valve set up and in place. So all the lines, I'll put in the description of what each one is for each location. So if you want to do the same thing, you can. But this, I believe, is 38. Let's see, let me pull up the packaging. So these are the fittings that I'm using here. They are 3AN to 3/8 -24 inverted flare. So that way these are just 3N to 3N, or yeah, 3AN to 3AN for all of these. And then this is, you can see a little different. All these are basically facing outward. This one has an inward piece, so get that, should work fine for you. But besides that, we are pretty much needing somewhere to put this. So I've been debating going back and forth of putting this inside the car and just having it somewhere I can turn it, reach it, whatever. But I am going to get a remote bias adapter to allow me to keep this in the engine bay and then be able to mount that somewhere inside the car so I can adjust it, move it as needed. So we'll get to that in a bit. But now that we have this and we decided we're going to keep it out here, as you can see, it has an in and an out for the specific sections for what we're trying to accomplish. So in, we're going to have it this way, out, we're going to have it this way, so that I can leave and go right there. So my thought process is to essentially make a bracket that's going to hang right underneath this as far back as it can, and then it's just going to allow us to mount it straight up and not have worry about anything additional being in the way. So we'll just have it here. But we'll probably have to redo our rear line for sure to get that to work. But we've made already a little bracket that I'll bend essentially about here, and then this is where it's going to mount and just lay flat on it. So we'll see how it works, but little homemade brackets, nice and easy. Okay, so decided on how we're going to do it. Instead of mounting it on the bottom one, which is going to be right in the way of this, we're going to attach to the top and then have it at an angle. So then that way the in will still get from this rear section, just come right over here, straight in, and then out, it'll already be pointed down, can bend it, come straight up to the top, and it goes straight over there. So let's drill these holes and get into it. All right, cool. We have our little bracket made with some riv nuts inserted into it. But yeah, so now it'll basically go like this. Place it on. We'll sit on the back of that, bolt that on, and then the proportion valve will be right here, and we should be set. And now we have the refined piece just to save a little bit of weight and then allow for more angle when adjusting it, so that way this can be properly down and then go underneath instead of above. So now we should be set. Bolt this down and we can bolt this on, and we should be able to make some more hard lines. All right, we have our prop valve in all the way, mount it up, tighten down, looking good. So we can come in here, adjust this as we need to. It's pretty strong overall, and all the hard lines are making it a little bit stronger. But I do like that this goes underneath and kind of is away from the heat, the general heat of everything. And I think everything looks pretty good. So very happy with that. So now that this is out of the way, now we can focus on getting the rest of the interior finished up. We just need to actually fill it with fluid and then see if it's actually leaking anything. And then we need to start the car, make sure that that also runs, and just double check and tighten down all these fittings, and we should be set. Super long project, but it's gonna be worth it in the long run. Gonna be worth it. Do a quick test fire. Not everything's hooked up yet, but it should at least crank over and fire for at least a second or so. So let's see what we got. If it doesn't leak. Missing the ground. I smell fuel, so 1,000 and something else. starts. All right, we're gonna quickly go through how to install the Willwood remote brake bias adjuster. Because we're just gonna use our proportion valve that we're gonna basically set everything up with. And then we have within the box our switch or our knob, and then the hose itself that connects to the proportion valve. So in order to get the proportion valve and this to line up together, this knob needs to come off. So best way you can do that, because you're not going to twist it by hand, there's red Loctite in there. You will basically need to separate this, so that way they're two separate things. There's a spring inside, so don't lose any of that stuff and where it goes. But once this is off, you can basically place it in a vise, upside down, place this part in the vise, and then should be able to twist this off, twist this to get the knob off altogether, and then you can hook the other end of this up. Because it looks like it's a brake line, but at the same time, I don't think you'll be able to really see in there. But there is no, there we go. It's not like a hose where there's a whole line through it because of this metal piece that's on the end of it. So this is going to allow you to actually turn the knob, and it should turn the proportion valve at the same time. So let's get into it. So you're going to get over to your vise, and then once you're in your vise, you should be able to go through taking this part of it off. So I've already loosened mine up, so that way it's easier to show you what we're going through. Like I said, there's a spring in here. It's not going to launch out at you or anything. And then there's a crush washer in there too, and that's going to be on the inside of this. So this and what's in there, you don't really need to mess with. You are essentially going to now set this aside, and you'll take this out of the vise. And then while it's in the vise, you'll basically, and like I said, already loosen this, you'll take this apart. So the lid or the top part is off, and then now they're separated. So now we can use the other hose and hook up right to this, and we should be good. And then once you're on there, you should be set to put it back together, and then you can put it back in the car. And then once you have everything set up, the cable needs to be like firmly set in place, but as you move, you should see it also over there. It's just hard to do one-handed. There we go. Really difficult to do one-handed, but it should just move. So in order to get it inside, I pretty much just drilled a hole in one of the grommets. This little one right here, add the square, and then we will essentially just feed this hose through here, push it back in, and then we should be set. All right, so last thing we're gonna do is I ended up, instead of the 90s that I have on there now for the brakes, just because I don't like how they're flared out at the current moment, I'm pretty much just gonna swap those out, and then we'll put these straights in there. So let's knock that out real quick, and then we should be ready to bleed everything. All right, we got all the brake lines in. We got the the straight through and through. Don't mind that grommet, that's just gonna sit right there. That way it doesn't hit or destroy anything, hopefully. This is all the way there. It's tightened on the inside. That was kind of a pain, but now we should be set to try and fill it up a little bit, pump it, see if we can get anything out, and make sure we're not leaking anything anywhere. That's the most important thing when you're making your own lines. All right, so after attempting a few different configurations of different fitting sizes all over the place for the proportion valve, and essentially none of them will work. So I needed to use the actual fittings that come with it in order to allow for this connection to work. So what I mean by that is there is a, let's give you a good example here. We'll use this as an example. This is the MX or M10 by 1.0 piece. So this essentially has a, as you can see, a fitting, oh man, come on, there we go. A fitting that's facing this direction that is making it somewhat difficult to sync up with what's on the inside because there's nothing pushing into this. It's just a hole, essentially. Let me show you what I mean. Looking at the old one, because I ruined the threads on this, trying so many different fittings, but essentially within here, it is just, it's pointed down. So it's angled downward, if that makes any sense. Where you would think, okay, one of these fittings will link up with that with no issues. But sadly, that's not the case. You need to have something that's actually pushing into this, which is the fitting, this fitting that comes with it. The red stuff on there, and that prevents all the fluids from coming out. So tighten that, and then using another fitting to adapt to that to dash 3N worked out like a charm. So that means all of our lines, our hard lines that we made, are working out fantastically through and through, not leaking anywhere. Ignore all the wet stuff down below. But otherwise, we've got everything locked up. So now we just need to bleed it all the way through and through. And if you haven't bled your car by yourself, then are you a real mechanic? But you'll pretty much just use a piece of wood, a couple pieces of wood to stack it on while it's still soft. And then as the pedal gets harder, you will just remove the pieces of wood and keep it going. So that's what we're in right now. So we'll report back once we're done. So when we look at the clutch line in comparison to the proportion valve, there is a flare piece inside that's pushing in essentially into the fitting itself. So that should allow us to utilize it without actually needing to seal it with one of the red pieces like we have in the proportion valve. So, all right, so we got all the lines bled. Everything's looking pretty solid, doing pretty well. Now we just need to get the clutch line bled and then we should be set. I got all the hard lines out of the way. Everything's pretty far away from the turbo now, so it should give us a little bit of comfort, but yeah, almost there. Literally almost there. And then we'll basically just slap the dash back in. So knock this clutch out real quick. The last thing we need to do is just add in our clutch slave cylinder. Got the other one on here for quite some time and nothing really wrong with it other than the boot slowly started ripping. So I figured might as well go ahead and swap it out, put a new one in, keep it going, keep it fresh, so we have less things to fail. So swap that out real quick and then we can start bleeding. All right, quickly just rerouted where the proportion valve was going under and then in. Before it was coming out this way, it just looked kind of out of place. So still looks like it's out of place a little bit, but we'll work with it for now. But now we can get into putting the dash in. Now that we have everything set up, everything's non-leaking, we just have to get our wires in place that we want to make sure that they're not dangling underneath. And then, yeah, we can start putting everything back in. As you can see, I already started putting some of the air stuff back in, but the biggest change, I would say, underneath the dash, besides all the routing and everything with all that, is going to be this, which is basically the AC delete. So this gets rid of the condenser that is with inside. That usually sits right there, essentially. That's up there on the shelf. So from here, we'll basically just take the setup bag. It'll hook up, clamp the same way the other one did here with the little clamps here as well. And then we can put the centerpiece back in. We'll put that in a second and hook it all up. A yoga mat. So just cut up yoga mat because they're water resistant or sweat resistant, water resistant, same thing. And then, yeah, they should hold on to a little bit of dirt, which looks like they have been over the years. So just sprayed it with some sticky stuff on the back, you know, some 3M adhesion promoter, and yeah, laid it down. So now we got this in, just need to lock it up and then we should be set to put the full dash in. And just like that, we have the dash back in. So still got a few different things we got to do, but at least for now, that'll mark the end of this one. So catch y'all on the next one, man. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. I will catch you later. Peace.